Everyone to today's discussion on Talking Films Online. Talking Films Online, or TFO in short, is an informal coming together of teachers, students, researchers, filmmakers, and cinephiles interested in cinema, more importantly, interested in talking and writing about cinema. The online group came together quite spontaneously during the pandemic and lockdown in June 2020. While Dr. Geeta Vishwanath from Baroda and I have been coordinating the activities of TFO since its inception, it would not have been possible without the enthusiasm of people who regularly join the discussion, like Ajanta Sarkar, Sanjay Kumar, Tarakeshwar, Sridhar, Rajan, Gayatri, Madhurima, Rasha, and so on. A whole host of people also join us every week for the films that interest them. So far, we have organized over 160 online events, which include weekly discussions on a pre-decided film and a few month-long film festivals and discussions, such as a short film festival that was curated by Nipa Majumdar, a French film festival curated by Abhijit Ranadev, a Dur Fest curated by VK Cherian, and a Women's DocuFest in the month of March this year to commemorate International Women's Day, among others. This year alone, we've had over 60 discussants such as Madhav Prasad, Theodore Bhaskaran, Babu Subramanian, Satish Poduwal, Nishi Pulgurta, Saibal Chatterjee, Manas Ghosh, Ivy Hunstuck, and a whole host of others, like Saumitra Roy, Basav Biradar, and many others. As it has happened this time, filmmakers often have made their films available exclusively for TFO members to watch by generously sharing links to their films. And often they have joined in the discussion. We have had directors like Jayan Cherian, Anjali Montero and KP Jayashankar, Uma Chakravarti, Gautam Santi and Uma Magal, Abhijit Banerjee and Devjani Haldar, whose film actually recently won the national award. Director Karan Bali and recently Amol Palekar had also joined the discussion. The TFO, we also have a WordPress blog where people send us film reviews and articles. This year, we've had the third smartphone short film contest to mark the TFO anniversary in June. This is the third edition of the short film contest. Our WhatsApp group and Facebook group is a forum to share film-related information, and members also share interesting articles on cinema, and we also share information relating to TFO events. This week, the two films, NOI and BOKUL were suggested by VK Cherian, who also put us in touch with the director Reema Borah, who has joined us for discussion today. The discussion on the film will be initiated by Maulee Senapati. Reema Borah is a writer, director, actor who was a performing artist and had done her master's in theatre before joining the FTII Pune to do her postgraduate degree in film direction. So she's all her films are showcased in film festivals globally and have also won several awards, including the National Film Award in 2009. BOKUL is her debut feature film, the film that we'll be discussing today. And her third film, Anunad, received the 69th National Film Award in Best Film on Social Issues. She's also served on the jury of several international film festivals. Maulee Senapati, who will initiate discussion today, is an award-winning filmmaker and a film academician. He's a graduate from FTII, and his film has been screened in international film festivals held in India and abroad. His works include internationally funded projects that range in themes varying from armed conflict and its impact on women, flood and erosion, and its impact on societies of Assam, livelihood issues, a whole range of issues really. A former journalist who worked with a leading newspaper published from Assam, Senapati was one of the youngest journalists to have covered two major operations against militancy that was carried out by the Indian Army in the late 80s and early 90s. Currently, he's a professor of film direction at Dada Lakhi Chand State University of Performing and Visual Arts at Rohtak, Haryana. He's also a former head of direction department at Annapurna International School of Film and Media in Hyderabad. He has authored several write-ups on cinema, which have been published in leading film journals. His other interests are photography and painting. We are very happy to have both the director, Reema Borah, and Maulee Senapati, who has acted in one of the films, but is also one of the few people probably in India who straddle with aplomb both academics and filmmaking. So welcome to both of you. Welcome to everyone who has joined the discussion today. And over to you, Maulee.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
Thank you, Nicola, for the introduction. Thank you very much, Geeta Vishwanathan, for and together to both of you for this wonderful initiative that you started during one of the most pivotal times that the country and the world faced. And in saying so, I apologize to both of you and to all the participants here that it is of a technical bag at my hand. As the last week, I see quite the bear as I thought. I have not been able to come online in a conventional sense, and I'm having to reach you through my meeting. But nonetheless, I have this song in there. Reema Borah is, in my view, it's a significant development in the history of African cinema. And in saying this, I don't intend to universalize, but Reema and Harvard in a certain perspective, so I have also been quite critical about it. If one delves into the history of African cinema, which actually started in 1935, with Judy Costa making one of the initial jockey in India, and most incidentally, a highly popular. So in other words, the history of African cinema started with a certain definite conflict, socially and politically. As was the spirit in that very significant part, the phase of your 1930s, 1940s Indian cinema, where the non-violent movement of Gandhi was gaining ground, and filmmakers took it upon them to move out of the pit and address social conflicts and reality. And Judy Costa, Agarwal, the first was the business in Assam who made the first effort started with a certain applause by 8 different regions, highly political and if I could say, discourse. But in the following years, and I must mention something here, that every time I have opened my mouth on African cinema, I have received more big festivals, bouquet, and I have become quite happy about this. The following to the Southern Nevada, the long history of African cinema, which has a deep recognition of God, but there has been very big in terms of films made with strong political conviction a mind to respect the age. 1970s, and we know this was the period in Indian cinema where, following the partial shown by the Broadway, the quarter, and because the Indian people without credit. Across the country, a neo-realist approach showed the way from the cinema and Indian cinema pretty solid. As the cinema also gained ground to these guys who were young.
Maulee, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Reema says audio is not clear. Maybe you could speak louder.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I mean, 1970s is a significant, transformation of the history of Indian cinema is concerned, where a new wave took over and filmmakers from across the region actually affirmed the true voice of Indian cinema. Assam didn't lag behind, and Maulee Borah, the most decorated filmmaker from Assam, was a part of this particular development effort. But the achievements, the singular achievements of Maulee Borah are in the subsequent period, Assamese cinema has always very cautious, and I constantly choose this word cautious, remaining eluded from addressing the truth. Several films have been made. People have won awards. But Assam, most dramatically, among other parts of the country, has passed through very, very challenging times. And storytellers somehow fail from addressing these truths which needed to be addressed. Politically, environmentally, Assam has undergone a major transformation. It's in this context that I would like to see Reema Borah's the initial two films, BOKUL and BOKUL. So I'm also critical about BOKUL in terms of their meaning. So in a way, Reema Borah's BOKUL almost showed the promise of an aesthetic way, if I may dare to do so. But I would like to ultimately categorize it as a way because, except for this film, the other things that happen around the time fail to carry a very strong connection. BOKUL, therefore, along with her next two films, are bringing it, as I see it, or I'm still trying to see it, a glimpse of the period of an Assam that has transformed overnight from what it was earlier to a certain state of health, politically, economically, socially, and more significantly, while many other aspects were visible, what was always eluding our attention was the social erosion that the society started happening. And that is how I would like to open this discussion about the marriage of these two women. For the first time, a young filmmaker, a person from FTII, ultimately addressed one's own social reality, which always remains eluded from majority from a cinema for a very long time. One, two. the nation stage has always remained limited, or shall I say, confined to a non-media approach. Nothing wrong in that, but there has to be one expectation. Reema belongs to a time when actually young people started gaining widespread exposure of cinema. The development doesn't happen in Burberry, and I would like to give her the merit that she, for once, introduced a certain new form to it as cinema. I would say this is effective in doing so, and I would like to, elaborate that before the discussion and not just in the introduction itself. But there was this attempt which was found in the argument word except two films. Maulee Senapati, which again addresses the tough situation that people are out of their self-education, and Reema Borah, most of people. One of the initial words that address a very significant issue of insecurity and a genesis, and one of the genesis of the development of the issue of identity in Assam is tormenting the state of the social fabric. Other than just the word, it is Reema Borah BOKUL, where whichever year she brings the film, I don't exactly remember, for the first time there was a clear, a visible attempt, conscious attempt towards experimenting with form and moving away from the very widespread practice of media. Thank you.
Okay. Maulee, have you finished?
Yeah. So for the introduction.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. It's hard to, when one can't see the person, it's hard to just go by the voice and make out that you've actually finished with the introductory remarks. But thank you very much for placing these two films in the context of, parallel cinema movements in India, Assamese film history, and then coming to speak about the specific films made by a young filmmaker who was trained in FTII, trying her craft, making all those experiments both formally and in the narrative, in the process of narration itself. Thank you so much for those opening remarks. The films are now open for discussion. Anyone who wants to come in at this point, you're most welcome.
May
Yes.
I? Thank you, Nikhila. I think what I found really engaging, with regard to both the films was the theme of home. The idea of home is in a way so central to both films, whether it is, a Rohtam coming back to Assam after a long gap of 5 years, or it is the NRI girl in NOI coming back again. Each of them seems to have a purpose for coming, and then they come with some image of their land, which perhaps they have carried, with them when they left, and then they come back and find those changes, and then struggle to come to terms with the kind of changes that have happened, whether it is, urbanization, deforestation, or militant movements and all of that. That I thought in both the films were extremely interesting. And in BOKUL, all the three characters have the same name. And I don't know if I am making the right sense out of it, but I thought perhaps Reema's idea behind that was to say that um, they have similar struggles as far as their identity goes, and even if the contexts are different, one is a single woman and one is an elderly fisherman and one is a rickshaw puller belonging to a minority community. So, although these contexts, their subject positions are all different, uh, their struggle with their own identity and how to negotiate that on a daily basis is similar. I think Reema could throw light on this the best. But that is how I thought of it. That's how I kind of tried to interpret this idea of giving all three names, all three characters the same name. It was a little confusing in the beginning, but then I realized, okay, he's also BOKUL, she's also BOKUL, this man is also BOKUL, all are BOKUL, and then tried to think why, what is the idea behind it. So these are some of the things that struck me about both the films.
Reema, you can respond if you wish right away, or if you want to listen to the entire discussion and respond at the end, that's also okay.
I think at the end would be better because
Okay.
I'm eager to hear all the opinions and
Okay,
remarks.
sure, yeah. Anyone else who wants to respond to the films now? Yeah, so my response while others kind of gather their thoughts. I'll begin with, what Geeta was saying, the names, the three characters, all of them being named BOKUL. Yes, it was very intriguing. But also, in a sense, it made complete sense because they are more emblematic of the kind of struggles that different people from different sections of society are facing. So whether it's this young man who is hounded because he belongs to the minority community, or the single mother whose struggles, my God, it was such a powerful character and it was so very moving. That, and then this placid, old man who's also eternally waiting, and there's something so poignant about him going every time to the police station to look at, to identify dead bodies. An eternal wait, the outcome of which you don't know, or you probably know only too well. So it was very, very poignant for me, and also, as Geeta said, initially quite confusing, but then you know why they are named like that by the end of the film. Also, the mode of storytelling. I think Reema really, I felt you place so much faith in your audience that they will make sense, so you don't have to give them cues. You don't have to make things very explicit. You expect your audience to make these connections. There isn't much in terms of forward development of the plot. They're all kind of woven together, kind of bunched up together. One could be in terms of the place where all this is happening. and some of their lives do intersect. But it's not like there is a tightly woven plot that brings all these three together, all these three or other characters too, including Raktim, together. So it's not that. So I thought the mode of storytelling itself was really wonderful. And then there was some extraordinarily, beautiful visual images, reminiscent of Manikal, those, where you see the boat passing from one end of the frame to the other, the reflection of the boat, and so the slow moves across the entire frame, as it were, as if time stands still, but it's a frame that is visually beautiful to behold. So that, and in NOI, again, the same thing in terms of, I mean, there is no great forward development of the plot, but in terms of what you show us of the current state of Assam through the travels and travails of this old man, the kind of people whom he meets. So you're not telling us, see, this is what Assam is. You're letting us deduce how horrific things are and how people are responding to these things. It's not that life has come to a standstill, or insurgency, or violence is not there. It's so much there, but also life is going on. So somehow I thought these were the things that I was responding to with regard to your films, but they are fairly challenging to watch. They're not films that you can just sit back and say, okay, I know it, I can make out what it's happening. So the connections really emerge probably much later. Yeah, and thank you very much for sharing these films with us and sharing such a wonderful experience of Assam with us in the form of these films. Anyone?
Thank you for your words. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just a minute, Maulee. Maulee wants to come in at this point. Can he come in, Nikhila?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, please go ahead, Maulee.
Well, the reason for coming in here is more with the idea of reacting to what Nikhila has just said. This morning, I was sharing with Reema over a phone call. To give you a kind of background between Reema and me, and here, me and Reema are not in inverted comma. There's about 10 years difference. I passed out in 1996, she in 2000. Way back in 73 or 74, I remember, I made my first visit to a big city, having grown up in Shillong, Guwahati, Lad, listening to the Brooks Cascade, birds chirp, the pines, and the whistling of the pines, and that was the word, and that was chime. My first visit to a big city, the idea of a big city, the monastery of a big city, but most importantly, in a small house where I spent the place for first service, looking at the windows, the structure, I was curious to know, why is it like this? Why is it that these windows are made? And I was told that it's because of theft and dacoity. Dacoits existed for me in the beginning. So, suddenly that night, one of the most memorable hunting nights of my life, I couldn't sleep. And of course, during my parents' when it was winter, because what existed in fable suddenly is now existing in the gully and just some arrived at school, I'd taken a little time to set things a little better. And school was declared closed. This is Guwahati. And the obvious question, why? Because they just tested. And I was driven by my father. Guwahati roads were quite small. And through those narrow roads, I was driven by my father with a government official between two large army columns. The olive trees that I first saw in probably 71 during the Bangladesh war at the Guwahati railway station, which was more romantic about the all the colorful things about the ending factory were always more visible. Suddenly was haunting for me. And an Italian Fiat was passing in between columns of army trucks with just the green, the camouflage of the face, the red flag visible. And cut to, my experience as a journalist at the field, covering to armed conflict too, well, with no other intention, probably the first filmmaker in Assam to have made a film on armed conflict with impact on women. And when I was interviewing the women, the biggest happiness I achieved is when many of them told me that for the first time, a stone, a rock has been removed from my heart. And it made me ask a question, that has the society reached that stage where communication, even in the village and the bonhomie they share, has become so disentangled, disintegrated. The situation in Assam, now why I have cited these different anecdotes from my personal life across a certain period, from the mid-70s to 2010, 11, when I was shooting the film, is the period where this whole evolution happened. Reema's film, in terms of, its approach is very significant, but somewhere I feel that she was attempting to cover a whole mosaic of situations at one time. And situations which are the complexities of which are very difficult to perceive. And this is where a confusion evolved out of the narrative. Because I have always felt that her characters, the character arc, and their situation does not achieve a completion. I have no issues with a style which is fragmented, that can well be a style. Such narrative style has always existed in literature and cinema. But when it comes to the very lettering, we are talking of a situation, first of all, what I find missing in our film is the exact geopolitical location and location of time. Which time is she actually interested? When the density of these situations actually attain an expression. And I'm saying this as an insider as well as an outsider. In the sense, I've already mentioned that somewhere I've always said that, her narrative, and we have already discussed of this, has somewhere failed to address the universe. As Shakti may say, the more regional you are, the more universal. But somewhere I find there's a disjointed connection here from Reema is that being from Assam, I can immediately respond to her narrative. But what about an audience somewhere outside? Reema definitely has an answer to this. But my question is, should cinemas reach, however truthful the expression be, confined to a limited space? Even when, as a filmmaker, I have a choice to say that, well, I make film for me short. That's where the question of the university in narrative arises. Two, why is it that she always refrains from creating a completion towards a character arc and the situation, and in the process, refrain the audience from actually experiencing the benefit of the social realities where the silence exists? And if silence exists, then why is it that this is fixed? The way to tell our stories in a more verbal manner, where the movement and the silence is the strongest point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maulee, for those comments. I'm sure Reema will have very interesting response to the points that you have raised, particularly with regard to characters not having a complete narrative arc. What is the time period in which these films are situated? What about the silences? So many things.
Because I mean, these developments, it gets brewed over a long period of time. There's always a genesis. There's always a genesis. Genesis. I'm not saying that genesis has to come within the story. As storytellers, we know that we always refer to backstory, whatever be the approach. This is, why is it that, the chasm, the existential chasm that, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Existential chasm doesn't occur overnight. There is a process towards its evolution.
Yeah.
Reema's world is a very disintegrated dark world. But somewhere we don't get the reference about, why. Take for example, in her second film, NOI. Why is it that that simple woman whose simplicity is visible when she is so concerned about serving this man from a village with a meal, has to actually trespass a neighbor's garden to get what we call the light hut. There's an expression in Assamese, emoti light, emoti hut. It's just a bunch of light. It's not particularly a very correct translation to express the essence of, the bare animal that one can serve to a guest, and that is from one whole village. And she tries to protect her modesty by covering it with her song. And this is a big close-up. There's an answer, therefore, dramatically on that particular shot, on that particular vision. Sorry. And then you see this woman ultimately submitting herself, or is she submitting? Or is she just seeking a situational pleasure from someone from whom she is getting that money? Why is this erosion happening? Is that an indication in the narrative? Is that indication at all important towards the building up of the screen? And how could such indications actually help emphasize the very, 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 very depth of a story is the question that I have to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Maulee, for the questions. I'm sure Reema will be here at the end to respond to the questions and the fairly long, I think, critique that you made about the process of narration. Cherian has unmuted himself. Please go ahead. VK Cherian sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, see, I'm speaking here as somebody who has been seeing good films for the last 45 years, 45 about 47 years from my college days in Toronto from Chitralekha. Why I suggested Reema's films to you, the talk TFO, was that I find these films very disturbing because no film has disturbed me recently in the last 10 years. Like when I saw NOI first, Reema is a Facebook friend, I messaged her and she sent me the BOKUL. And then I saw it, I said, look, I feel BOKUL is a greater film than NOI. My disturbance comes from the fact that I am married to an Assamese. My kids speak, their mother tongue is Assamese. I've been going to Assam from 85 onwards. So I know little of Assam situation. Well, I was a great friend of Prabhulla Kumar Mohanda and the whole gang, which facilitated a new politics in Assam. And I saw the frustration happening later. And so I know what happened to the common people. I heard from my father-in-law, who was a police officer, who was predicting this tragedy in 85 in my first visits, which Reema is talking about, which is, there's a death in each of the families. People are waiting for dead people to be identified, people and women are waiting for, their husbands to return as in NOI, So it's I'd say that the whole sorrow of Assam, the upheavals of Assam, its effect on the common people have been well captured by Reema's film. That's why I suggested to TFO that this is a film which people need to discuss and debate. And what interests me there is that apart from all other film techniques and all, there is life in the film. There's actual life. I was talking to one of the senior film critics, who was Chitralekha's general secretary, and I asked him in one of my YouTube discussions, what makes a good film? So he replied to me at the end with a lot of explanation. At the end of the day, a good film must, push you to make you a better human being. I think that's where, this is after seeing these two films. And I think Reema's film comes into that category, If you know the ground situation in Assam, what happened in the last 40 years, from Assam agitation to till now, the ghettoization of minorities and so-called foreigners. So you realize that the land has gone through tremendous upheavals, thanks to politics, thanks to social upheavals, thanks to agitations and everything. And to capture that as a filmmaker, it's a big challenge. So, and I think what Reema has succeeded is to capture those, people. She's not talking about big politics or anything. She talks about the frustrations of politics, the revolution, the promised revolution. It can be Asu revolution, it can be left revolution. I know that there was Assam also was like in Bengal or Andhra or Kerala. There's a strong left movement there. in 70s and 80s. But then that gave way to ASU agitation, ASU, the students union, and it went on a different thing. The whole thing, she captured it so well because, a friend of mine, a senior of mine in IMC was killed in Assam. He was a PR of Oil India. He was killed by the Assam, what you call Ulfa. So one has gone through that whole process, personal, emotional, and social issues. So that friend was a Tamilian. He had nothing to do with this thing. It's like I felt like, the NOI, the lady asked the revolutionary, "Why did you kill my father?" It's like my friend's daughter going there and asking, somebody who killed her, "Why did you kill my father?" He was a Tamilian. He had nothing to do with it. He was just working there in Oil India. So that kind of life she has put in. And I was asking her, since she's dedicated the first film to Manikal, I asked her, are you influenced by the likes of Rithi Katak? Because I fall back on Subarnarekha, a lot of this, visually and otherwise. Intense humanism, which is what both the films makes Reema different from other filmmakers. I've been seeing Reema Das's film. She goes to the Assam countryside and talks about, she gets into the village life. That's fine, village rock star and Bodul can sing. That's all fine, but there is village life there. But she's looking at life there in villages and the common people in a totally different way. I think she's more detached than other people and looking at it from as a third person who has been exposed. Maybe she lived in Chandigarh and Bombay for a long time. She had that, distance, she could see it from a distance also. Being an Assamese, you need to look at from a distance to know, actually you can, I feel that you can analyze it better if you keep a distance and look at things. And it is very touching, the Joy Ali aspect of it, the song. I felt, for me, the fallback was more on Katak, whether it is Suvarnarekha or Mekhada Katara. Yeah, because the tragedies of people, or whether it is pre-independence or now, are the same, because we as and let me tell you, Assamese as a society, as individuals, they are very simple people, but as a society, they have complicated their life around them for reasons best known to them. I am not somebody to this thing. I live in Delhi. My daughters live in, outside Assam. So one can comment on the reality as of now. And the last few years, I've not been there. And let me tell you, first time I went to Assam in '85 in Guwahati. My in-laws are in Guwahati. I saw ASU coming into power. It was like a celebration of democracy. People went, voted for a change. And there was no opposition, nothing. It was in Guwahati, it was like a celebration, not voting day. I was there covering as a journalist. So things were different there and things went really bad. And when in BOKUL, when Joy Ali's son asked me, don't you recognize me? I am so and so. Joy Ali's son, don't you not recognize me? It was like that's gives you the thing which I think the attitude which Reema carries. Like whole thing has changed. The Bombay Assamese went back and he's asking him, why do you, if you are a 12th class, a boy, why are you driving a rickshaw? So he says that, look, why did you go to Bombay? So I didn't have a job. It's like she really plays, even the first sequence itself, she gives you that whole idea of, what is happening there. And when we see him, the rickshaw puller being beaten up, you see the boy there, the BOKUL's, the Joyal's, the disciple who's with his girlfriend, but he doesn't respond. That's a whole tragedy because they don't know what's happening there. People from outside. But toward the end, he also is a witness. They are all been reduced to witnesses, and the changes in family relationship, all these things, beautifully, At the end of the day, I felt that Reema knows the life around in Assam, and she has captured it very well in films as a filmmaker. Maybe she is trained in theater, so she has made her this thing. Like the hero of the film, the BOKUL, the old man. He's almost like Sadhu Meher. For me, the recall of the Sadhu Meher of old days, or Gobi in Malayalam. They were all middle-aged people or senior citizens almost. But the way they acted, it is a natural acting plus the way they represented the life around them is very touching. I think very few filmmakers could do that. Whether it's an Adur or Shambinigal with Sadhu Meher and all. So I find it's very few filmmakers in her generation, she's in her 40s, have done such a thing, which is very touching. She knows what's happening in the ground. And now that she's staying in Assam for a few years after COVID, I was talking to her. She said, we've gone back to Assam. And her third film, which is Anunad, which is again on human trafficking, which is very few people know that from the countryside of Assam, how many girls are being transported to cities in various towns of India. Yeah, so here is a person who is who was educated outside, but gone back and seeing life there in her own society with a detached viewpoint and trying to comment on it, which is very touching, I think. And that's what, that's one of the reasons I suggested this film, that people must know about, people who, at the end of the day, every film, apart from everything else, there has to be life in it. There has to be, of course, the structure and everything we can discuss, debate, all these things. The questions have to be answered. But there is life in it. That's what I felt. Because little I know of Assamese society through my in-laws and my interactions with, the friends from Assam, all of it. That way, I think I expect bigger and better films from Reema, because she's in the right track, and she has a viewpoint to say, and she knows her filmmaking. And thank you for discussing this. And I'm not being a fan of Reema, but I feel that this is the kind of films we need in India. That people, the filmmakers who know the life around them, and they make films about it, and they have the film language, and they have it touches the hearts of the people around them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I too agree. It was both the films were extremely moving. I don't think Reema is out to explain things. As Maulee said, every explanation is going to be partial and one-sided. So I think it is more to kind of give us a sense of the outcomes, the lives that people are leading after whatever has happened. So she's not out to tell us, see, this is what happened. So very often we don't know, Reema, what has happened. And, as Maulee said, yes, you're not really interested in giving us, the backstory of where the son has gone, for instance, in BOKUL. We can only imagine how horrifying it is. Both what has happened to him, but also for people who are left behind. So I too found both the films extremely moving. Anyone else who wants to now respond? Ruby, do you want to respond?
Not really. Actually, I've seen BOKUL and I'm a fan of BOKUL. And I have not seen a NOI. I mean, I have seen NOI on my mobile phone. So I have not been able to, uh, get the actual experience of the film. But then I do agree with what Cherian sir has said. And Reema has certain convictions, and I, being an insider of Assam, she has seen the chaos while growing up, from her childhood to this stage of life, how chaotic and how painful life has been through this chaos. And I think she's made her statement with her style of cinematic, you know, depiction. And I think she's successfully established her viewpoints, and that is what I feel.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ruby. Anyone else?
Well, I very briefly, though I'm waiting to listen to Reema as we get the years after. Can I just take a few minutes?
Yes, sure.
Well, I admire Mr. Cherian's love for Assam, and certainly Reema, for one, requires a lot of admiration and put it very humbly, support for that. In a way, the conviction with which she's been telling the story. But I'd just like to point out one thing here. Mr. Cherian gave the example of Shumon Vodka. When the maestro conceives his story, it sets it in its capital form. One can visibly see the deep generation of human situation as the story arc of the protagonist progresses, to the point where he lends up to a wonderful scene, perhaps one of the best shot scene of absurdity in Indian cinema, at a brothel, where his own sister is serving the customers. My point is, the situation in Assam, as it has been brought, there is an outsider view. For Reema and people like me who are living outside, it provides a certain space to look from outside and also as an insider, which Mr. Cherian is very correct in pointing out, can help what I would like to articulate an objective perspective towards the whole society. Well correct. But end of the day, what we have to recognize is that, first of all, there is nothing called an Assamese society. This is an outsider. Whatever we are as speaking in our society, most of it fundamentally, it's an outsider. What is an Assamese society? There has never been an Assamese nationalism as many other parts of the country. And that is precisely where the issues of identity are cropping up. So the whole complexity of the reality of Assam is far, far, far difficult than one can generally perceive. And to address a plot of story here is not a suggestion, but something I have been trying to highlight. This is where Reema has been, with all her honesty, addressed too many things at one time, which perhaps, end of the day, hasn't been providing a cohesion towards the narrative. It has, in my view, been failing to achieve the leveling that needs to be achieved to actually present where the crisis exists. And that is where my good wishes lie. The attempt, I salute, because I've already put it in my opening remarks, that many others, even the more, that will be even more blunt, so-called solvers, have been avoiding. She has, and I see her in that perspective. But in doing so, I believe, somewhere, the approach to her story is true enough. The human aspect do come out, but somewhere they have to be contextualized. That contextuality is important. As an insider, and also as someone who has stayed away and looking at my own work, with which I have participated very closely, find it missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maulee, for again reiterating your point. I'm sure Reema will have something to respond to this discussion. But before we ask Reema to respond, anyone else who would like to speak at this point? Yes, Tarkeshwar, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, everyone is saying that both the movies were moving. But I also felt that few characters who come back seem to be kind of rootless, in the sense that they were not able to grapple with the complexities of it, and seem to be more animated with their personal loss, especially when she tries to catch hold of him and sudden outburst. She comes, claims that she is interviewing, she's doing field work, she's doing research, and suddenly when she finds him, there's an outburst. That I thought slightly out of the context, because the distance is necessary. I would agree to have a fresh look at what is happening. In fact, many of the people who migrate or move out temporarily will gain some kind of fresh look on what is happening back home, and they bring that fresh look. But here it looked like she's still animated with what has happened to her quite long back. But it is a literary device again to make a point in the narration that every house and everybody is affected by this quote unquote struggle or violence that is happening. And why the violence is happening, it may not be explicitly stated, because the narrative point of view is to say that every house there is some problem or the other. So the first film that we watched, the search for the dead body ends up in the dead body. So in that sense, that is the realization. What you are trying to look for, an answer, you'll end up with a question, a kind of thing. And then all through the journey, finds everybody is touched by this struggle or violence that is happening there. So in that sense, it is in tune with the overall narrative. But if you're trying to situate it in the context of Assam, as V.K. Cherian and others have pointed out, even I, as a growing adult, came in. Assam became part of my imaginary then in 80s, when again 83 elections, a change in the regime that is coming up with student union becoming a party and then coming into power, because that also coincided with rooting out Congress parties in the south, especially in United Andhra and then Karnataka. First time non-Congress parties came into power. So in that sense, rise of NTR there and rise of Janata Dal here, and then Praful Kumar Mahant there. It was seen as a kind of a break, new direction in the political history of India. Since then, in 90s, again, when I visited Assam and other northeastern states, there were a lot of restrictions to go anywhere and things like that. But in the last 10 years or 12, 13 years, it has changed a lot. The first movie also documents that in spite of the violence, there is a lot of change, a lot of outsiders coming in, a lot of new things coming in, cafe coffee days coming in, roads are getting broadened. That is one of the images that you often get. And not simply the road, but the roads that are getting extended. So, and then, so it talks about these changes, but without exploring the larger socio-political factors. But I was wondering that in a way it brings in, because the violence that we saw in 90s were more internal squabbles and then various communities and then state, anti-state. But now the attack on Muslims, Bangladeshis, looks like a new thing. But today we also find that it's much easy to roam around in Northeast, especially Assam, than it used to be in the 90s. But this distinction, again, is not evident in the narration, because the narrations somehow underplays the larger socio-political factors and the changes, and tries to pinpoint the kind of violence that is being recurred and then how it is affecting the quote unquote the fabric of the society, which earlier lived together. That seems to be the focus of the narrative. But the narrative is powerful, there's no doubt. But also exploration of the other larger issues would have, in a more direct way, would have added complexity to it. Because it is not just violence that is happening there. Why this violence is happening, and what are the factors that are responsible for it, and how dynamic these factors are and how they constantly change, is also something that is worth exploring. But of course, we can't expect one film director to hold responsible for writing a socio-political history of Assam too. So I'm not expecting it, but somehow the absence of it becomes conspicuous in the narrative. Thank you.
Well, that's what you are talking about is the first place togetherness. It never existed. And this idea of a togetherness, the idea of an Assamese society is ultimately a high caste, if you'd allow me, high caste driven race. And that is precisely where the whole idea of Assamese has come in, which first showed during the Assam agitation, much before the Muslims, when the Bengalis were targeted. And people who have served the land so wonderfully well. But then again, there's a genesis to it, and that is the imposition of language, where Bangla was imposed as a state language, and the conflict, the genesis of the conflict begins from there. It's a very complex situation, which simply, through a certain relationship or certain emotional sentimental association, is very difficult to perceive. It is so embroiled to the geopolitical, there was a Naga revolt that was happening. Naga conflict is the oldest conflict of Asia. And it's happening just across the hills. How could you not help those who fell out with the Assam agitation, which was led basically by the high caste, and agree with an arms revolt? I mean, saying that I'm not supporting it because I'm a personally as a journalist, it's not going to FDII, and by saying this, I'm not trying to at all highlight my situation. I'm very happy what I am. But the point is, I've seen it, how the Ulfa carried out massacre. But the point is, Alpha did not fall from the sky. It grew out of the social reality. And that is precisely where I'm specifically talking about the need to understand the labyrinth. Otherwise, we are simply touching the surface. Narrative is not about the surface, but reaching the labyrinth. Thank you.
Just a quick addition to it, the caste issue, when the fisherman goes around looking for the whereabouts of the Atul Kalita, is accommodated wherever he goes without any inquiry about him, to which community he belongs to. I was wondering, is Assam society a kind of casteless society where a fisherman could be accommodated in anybody's house without much inquiry into his social background? Something that the question kept coming up in my mind while watching that movie. Thank you.
No, Assam does not have that kind of a rigid caste system.
That is possible in Assam. That is possible in Assam because Assam does not suffer from the activeness of caste system as it does in North India or any other. That's possible. But yeah, at the same time, it would be a complete misnomer. I mean, nothing to do with Reema's film. No, it's misnomer to believe that there is, the general reference to what is anthropologically identified as the Koipot. That is the fisherman community. Are referred as derogative as the immigrant Muslims are referred to as Iyal. And it is visible across the social, reality. So, yeah, but that, the context of the film, I'm prepared to accept that is possible.
Thank you.
Ruby, you had unmuted. Did you want to say the same thing about caste?
Yeah, I just said Assam doesn't have that kind of rigid caste system. So it is very much possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to disagree. I mean, even Dr. Bhupena Hazarika was insulted. A person who I'm talking about in the language of those times, or spirit of that time, 2 master's degrees, one from Banaras Hindu University and from the Columbia University with a PhD from Columbia University, but he returned back and introduced for the first time in the country the idea of how singing could address the mass. And this practice started in Assam. He was insulted, which resulted in a very significant composition by this maestro. So it always existed. I have myself witnessed it in my childhood because I come from what is called Upper Assam, but I don't want to extend, this discussion to all that. But the point is, there has always been this whole practice of duality that, and this is where I think Reema. This is precisely where I think Reema, that she has come forward to break duality. Please try to understand. This duality always existed, like we are soft on caste, this, that. No, it has never been so. It did exist in invisible manner. How openly did a Hindu actually welcome a Muslim into one's household, except when, one happened to be a close friend. So these dualities existed, but it did not exist in the extreme sense, the way it exists now. But when I'm saying now and then, I'm basically hinting at an arc that is the evolution. And this is significant, I believe. When you watch Ella Rennie's Night and Fog, for example, sitting here, even if I don't know, Germany, or, what happened in Europe, or, it impacts. It impacts because this is where I would like to bring in, a word that very significantly Cherian expressed in deliberation, the human aspect. And for that, the narrative has to actually go into a depth which I hope Reema would accept my critical position, which is out of my aspiration for what she has done, and I'm thinking immediately, her stories have not yet reached. Thank you. I'm sorry I've been very blunt, but with all my support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did someone else unmute? Okay, Cherian sir. Yes, please go ahead.
I want to comment because what I find is, when my initial visit to my in-laws place, my father-in-law being a police officer, he was retired by then, 85. He used to tell me he used to give me a forward projection about what will happen in Assam if this whole agitation and it comes to a culmination, if they succeed. He predicted a kind of, people have no idea what they are talking about. I've served in the border villages, the border districts. He was actually a senior. He retired as a senior intelligence person of the state, so he knew what was happening in the ground. So he was very, very critical about Assam agitation, the whole thing of throwing away foreigners and all, and he had predicted a doom. A pile of doom will descend on Assamese society. And what I find after so many years when Reema is chronicling the people's tragedies, I find that I look back and find that how true he was. He's no longer to see all these things, but how true he was, because it essentially when you take on people on whether it is caste or community or religion, after a point it leads to tragedies. In fact, I think Reema, by showing the BOKULs, it's all of them are suffering from tragedies of their own. Sometimes like the father BOKUL is waiting for the son who went off to make a new world and he never returned. And it is very touching when the father tells the son's colleague that, look, don't show me dreams, I've seen life, which is very, very, I think very few films in recent history has taken that attitude. Or in NOI, when the daughter comes and confronts the revolutionary, saying that you killed my father, what did you achieve? I think very few people have questioned the whole thing of agitations and revolution and all these things the way it is. It's very, I think I'll say the post-Soviet, post-revolution, leftist dream of revolution, all these things. I think very few people have touched that. That's where I got very touched, because one has seen these films, asking for revolution, whether it is in Latin America or in India, Munalda's revolutionary films and all of it. When here is, after the new generation filmmakers say that what have you achieved other than tragedies, other than killings? I lost my father. How can you explain that to me? So that kind of questions, this is I think this is something with the new generation, of Reema's generation and the 40s generation can ask, and rightfully so, I think. And in Assam context, it's very, very, very contemporary, because they have what you call the foreigners camps being built and all these things. I'm sure, India is going to see a bigger tragedy in those camps. Whatever you may say, they may be Bangladeshis or whatever the thing, but they are. If you go to Assam, I've been to the Assam-Bangladesh border. It's like a big paddy field, and one side is BSF and the other side is Bangladesh Border Security Force. It's like the BSF jokes that actually we are guarding the cattle thieves from coming out to India and doing it. That's what they when I went there, they told me in '86. I was the guest of AGP government then. So that's a kind of things which happen. It's all one people. They may be different. They may be two countries or two religions, but they're all the same people. And people who live there knows what it is. So that's where I feel Reema is asking the right questions. To you. She may not. I don't think as a filmmaker she need to answer it, but she has seen the life and she's making them ask questions to all of us, which is very relevant. And I think that's what they make these two films different from what I have seen of her generation of people. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else would like to respond? Yes, Cherian sir, you want to go ahead?
No, I said.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Anyone else would like to respond? Yes, Madhurima.
Yeah, I will just say one or two comments very much related to the film, but thank you for the discussion and the issues related to Assam that I was not really aware of. So the one or two things that I have observed in the film, the questions like, is the state there for us or are we there for the state? That is very much portrayed in the film NOI, but also there in BOKUL. And also in BOKUL, I found the question like, when the societal norms becomes more important than the individuals, they almost become a tool of oppression. And both the films, BOKUL and NOI, I felt like, especially in NOI, the film ends with the ray of hope, with the sunset, probably, yeah. And it is more pronounced there in NOI, but also in BOKUL, when BOKUL decides to speak up against the murderer. And in both the films, the river, I found the river is almost like a character, a witness to all the actions happening in Assam. So the two films were really moving. So thank you for the discussion and for recommending the films to us.
Okay, thanks, Madhurima. I think most people have had their say. Now it's over to you, Reema Borah, for your comments, for your responses to all the responses that have come so far to your wonderful films.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, VK Cherian sir, for suggesting the films to Talking Films Online. This is a great platform, and I'm really glad to receive this feedback on both the films, BOKUL and NOI. I actually really minutely observed and listened all of your opinion and suggestions. Also, I like Geeta ma'am's observation, when she said it, both the films addresses about home, the concept of home. Yes, it is. Where is our home? The idea of home is what? Basically, home gives us peace. That is not there. We have our buildings, we have our constructed image of home, family, social norms, according to social norms, everything is there. But the idea of home, I think almost everyone is carrying somewhere deep within, where is my home? Is this what we call home? Is this giving us peace? So where is this peace? So, and then VK Cherian sir observe everything. Nobody has actually mentioned about this discussion of the rickshaw puller and the character rock team, and they both are actually trying and doing the same thing. One is going out of the place, a home, for earning. Another one is doing the same thing, educated but unemployed, and doing something we look down up to. So, and one question now I'd like to answer is BOKUL. BOKUL is a very local flower, grown like that. We don't have to care for them. When we think about our home gardening, we go to nursery, we buy flower, we decorate them, we take care of them, we give them manure, water. We know how we care our flowers, but BOKUL or flowers like BOKUL or locally grown flowers, they grow themselves. We don't have to take care of them. For our characters, 3 BOKULs comes from this concept of BOKUL. They're so aam aadmi, so local and so insignificant, so-called insignificant, that we don't even recognize them. That's why I put all of them as BOKULs. But their fragrance is, you cannot avoid that. The fragrance is everywhere. And every human has this fragrance. That is what I believe in. And as VK Cherian said, that idea of human life, humanity. Mr. Tarakeswar sir said that, is it possible to travel in discomfort like this? Like you enter to anybody's house and live comfortably? No, it is not. Nowadays we are so live in doubts. We don't trust anyone. We don't even trust ourselves. But then why this person is accepted everywhere? That is the concept of humanity I believed in, and my focus was not on the physical journey. The physical journey would have been more interesting if I put those hurdles. There he's facing this problem. There he's finding these interesting turns and twists. My focus was not there. My focus was, I think you observe the film very closely and perhaps notice that the person he found on his fishing net was the same person who died at the last in front of his eyes. So it is a full circle. The dead body, he witnessed the death of the same man's death. So that is not realistic at any point, it cannot be real. So our Bisnudas, the fisherman, found a dead body of some Otul Kolita. We don't know the identity of the man. And these questions are actually coming back to us through some characters in the film to Bisnudas. What if he's not Otul Kolita? If you are looking for Otul Kolita, what if he's not there? What if someone has stolen Otul Kolita's phone and he found the phone and it is saying it is Otul Kolita? We don't know the identity of the man. But at the end of the film, we see Bisnudas witnessing the death of the same man, Otul Kolita. We call him Otul Kolita. So the form itself was not that traditional, or the 3x structure, or developing a character or the character arc. There are different kind of storytelling. There are different kind of forms of cinema where these the Bible of script and narratives are not followed religiously, I would say. So in my case also, in NOI, I'll come to BOKUL later. I focused on the journeys and ultimate result of the journey of this man, this middle-aged man who has lived whole his life in this village, and now he's going out to discover things which were hidden from him, not discovered until now. He didn't even know if this is called Assam, So like, if I consider myself as the person, there's so many things happening. We don't know. We cannot, go deeper into everything. But in the bigger picture, what is happening and what is the whole, as a whole, what is the, summary of the idea of the whole thing is important to me. Not the when making the film, it was the important thing to me that this is what is the bigger picture of the film. This is what exactly where I'm going. This is exactly what I believed in, and this is exactly what I wanted to make. And I tried. Yes, it is very difficult, as you said, Nikhila. It was very difficult to watch, and I agree that the film is quite boring and quite not. I mean, you cannot relate to the characters quickly, or difficult to connect to. But then that is how I wanted to, make the film. I wanted to make not only myself detached from the character, from the script, but from the audience also. Intentionally, I wanted to, have that detachment between the audience and the film and the characters, which is alienation by Brecht. And I'm very much influenced by Brecht and Khatak, and that's how epic structure and alienation, these are integral part of both these films, and could have been definitely, could have been like exploring one character journey and getting the whole picture out of politics, society, would have been possible. But it was not my intention or purpose to go that direction. My purpose was staying with this man, old man, and discovering his discoveries. So it is his arc was important to me, not the other characters. They were like, yes, this is what is happening. I am discovering, and this is what is I'm witnessing. I'm not commenting. I'm witnessing, and we all are mere observers and witness only. Puppets, ultimately, in the hand of politics, social norms. We know how life it is now. So BOKUL was a little different. BOKUL had that connection, emotional connection, and it had a story. I mean, traditional storyline was there. The structure was again differently placed. Yeah, maybe in my later films I'll try to, have a round character arc of the characters and going deeper into the emotional and social political journey of the characters. But with these films, I wanted to experiment the scenes as a unit, especially with NOI. I wanted to see how we build a house with each block, putting each block, one block, then another block, putting one block, then another block. That's how I constructed the whole narrative. And yes, it is very, very easy to travel. Physical travel was very easy for this old man, Vishnu Das. He did not face any discomfort physically. He was traveling on bike, no discomfort. He was having all kind of basic needs were fulfilled. But if we see the whole picture, I think he has changed as a person, and that was the 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 theme of the film. That was the main idea of the film. So it was purely my experimentation with the form, with some theories and some experimentation of my own ideas of, making the film without thinking of what would be the reaction of the audiences, or audience would connect with the film or not, or will it reach to the global audience or local audience, or no, nothing. Actually, I had not even, think of anyone except me watching the film, because I was purely making the film for my understanding of cinema, for my experimentation with the form, and kind of idea of alienation. I wanted to explore that, and I have learned a lot, and the film has actually reached the kind of audience. That's why I'm here, I'm talking to you.
Reema, I'm so sorry. I saw your message just 5 minutes ago. I'm really sorry TFO has kept your kids waiting for their dinner. Please, you may feel free to leave if you wish to. You wanted to leave some time ago, but we have kept you
No,
waiting.
I think if anything else I would need to answer, I'd definitely clarify that. Then
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Any other points? If
I like the observation of Madhurima when she said the river is the witness. It is so correctly, aptly said. I live actually very close to Brahmaputra, and these stories of dead body found in the river, and all characters are, here with me. There are, and in the Lady Bokul, in the film Bokul, in reality, that lady had a son and he died a few months ago. And these are real characters, and I know them. And there are many stories, many events, many history go unnoticed. They are not, written. They are not spoken about. They are not. They do not get that, emphasis, but they're still there, and every human being carries their own history, so I think every narrative has their own, way to express also, I think. And maybe some narrative reaches the Sahriday, same hearted people, and some may not. I mean, that is the only answer I'd say.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Reema, thanks so much for your time. Yeah, and we don't want to keep you any longer than it's necessary. Just so happy that this discussion has gone on. Usually it's a success when it crosses 10:30 for us. It's gone on to 11. So that just shows how engaging your films have been and how engaging this discussion has been for all of us. Thank you, Reema, very much for joining us,
you.
for allowing us
Thank
to watch
you,
your
Reema.
films. Thank you very much, Maulee
Hope,
Senapati.
hope I have answered your doubts.
Yes,
and
Cindy. Yes, yes.
somehow.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Reema. Thank you,
very much,
Maulee.
Thank you, sir.
Maulee.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, in spite
night.
of the technical issues, you have joined us and you have reached us. So thanks very much for that. And thank you everyone for joining tonight. We will meet again on Saturday with another round of film discussion. So have a good night and a happy weekend.
Thank you.
See you
Good
next week.
night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night, Gita.
Good night. Thank you.